Good morning. Good morning. So, that's fine. I don't like this. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and start with our announcements this morning while we're all just kind of taking some time to get to our seats and stuff. There's quite a few interesting announcements we have. The first, and I think the most important, is there's this wonderful person in our church getting married. Her name is Gabrielle DiCamillo. Oksana's also getting married, but all the stuff for Gabby's wedding is in the backhand corner there. If you're coming, the information for when the wedding is, if you're coming, there's little cards to fill out to let them know you're coming to the wedding, the whole 9 yards. So if you're coming to the wedding, it's going to be here. All the information is going to be back in the corner, right where Charlie's at. Secondly, Good Friday service is coming up. It's going to be April 15th at 6 p.m. And then that following Sunday is our Easter service, and that will be at 10 a.m. There will be no Christian education for Easter Sunday. Also, don't forget, the ladies' crafting event is coming up this Saturday, April 9th at 1 o'clock. I hope you guys have fun with that. I'm obviously not a lady, so I won't be there for that, but I hope you ladies enjoy it. Finally, there's something I want to show for the youth group. Oh, that's fine. He can't show it. Never mind. I'll show it next Sunday. So, the youth group changed their name, and we have something we're working to show you guys. So we're gonna work, and we're gonna show you guys that next Sunday.
Great. God's doing amazing things in our lives. Hey, I love when we try something new out and how well it works out the first time. What we're trying to do is, I don't believe that announcements should be part of the worship service. Never believe that ever, that they should be in that hour and 15 minutes that we have. Because sometimes announcements, people kind of babble through them. I don't know who would do that, like me. But what we want to do is have it during the 5-minute countdown, at the beginning of the 5-minute countdown. And trying to explain this to everybody always works out differently, and but that's what we're trying to do with the countdown and everything. And then we ran into a glitch because they wanted to show something today, and the countdown was going on, and no one knew what to do, which is perfectly fine, because we're just working this whole thing out somehow. So the teenagers wanted to show you guys something, and I'm not going to wait till next week. So go ahead and throw that up on the slide.
While Raymond's getting it here,
Welcome, glad you're here.
The youth group has been called Moyo for the last 3 years and beyond, right? So we came up with a new name. The youth group decided on this, and the whole idea is it's Ignite. And yes, we have a little dragon blowing, and it's breathing fire, and it's Ignite, right? So, because the whole idea, and this is what was really crazy, right? What's the vision of our church, Raymond?
Awakening the image of God in all people.
Raymond, what's the vision of the youth group?
Don't ask him.
No.
He's a teenager.
It's igniting. It's very similar. Ignite the power of God in all people.
Okay.
And I thought that was really crazy because they came up with that on their own without knowing the vision of the church. And I thought that was so powerful. And I wanted to share that because that's so cool that the kids that don't come here very often, you guys don't see here in the mornings, they came up with this on their own. And I thought that was really awesome, and especially this for you guys. So, yeah.
See, it still worked out. See, we're trying new things because when we come to church, church isn't just about coming in and sitting down, singing a song or two, wondering why there are nobody leading the music this morning, wondering why nobody's in church this morning, sitting there saying, I woke up at 9 o'clock for this. Church is something much bigger. When we come together, we are supposed to come in contact with God this morning. Our people are meeting here this morning, coming in contact with God. And what we want to do is create that atmosphere where we can connect with God, where we encounter God. And there's some things that we can do in order to encounter God, because that's what we are here to do. To encounter God in such a way that we leave here changed, on fire, focused on what we're going to do for the next week. And so that we want to do things so that we do not break that spirit coming in. We love little kids, and they can break anything they want here at our church. Except for teenagers. If you haven't noticed, there's some exciting things here this morning. We have 4 little kids in church this morning. 2 of them. Oh, we got Micah and Josh over there. If you haven't seen some of the teenagers that are sitting in the front row, yes, you are. That's okay. We have a teenager who wants perfection. But this is exciting. And we are here to listen to God and to encounter his Spirit. Let's just listen to God this morning.
Today's opening scripture comes from 1 Timothy 4:12. And I wanted to share this mostly because my teenagers were here. And it's actually something I love about this verse. It's actually the verse the NYI uses to teach to teenagers about their about being a leader within the church. And it's 1 Timothy 4:12 says, "Don't let anyone look down upon you because of your youth, but set an example in faith, purity, and conduct." And I love this passage, especially as we're approaching Easter, because we talk about living like Christ, right? And how do we do that? We do that by what we do outside the church, how we show ourselves to people, and how we represent our faith every single day, right? And that's what 1 Timothy 4:12 is telling us and showing us. How can we do that? Well, we set an example in our faith, our purity, and conduct. So everything that we say, everything that we do, and how we show ourselves to people in our lives. And I think that's a very important passage to remember as we approach Easter. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, you reign above all creation. You are above all capacity and approach. Let your power and reign come into our world, into our lives, and let your plan and desire become our plans and desires. Bless us, beyond our wildest imagination. Give us all that we need and more. Hold not on our wrongs against us. Don't punish us where we go astray, but empower us to live out your mercy, love, compassion, and forgiveness in every aspect of our lives. Father, protect us. Save us from sin, death, and the power of the devil. Let evil and wickedness have no place in our lives. For yours, Father, are all good things, all power, all goodness, all praise, all majesty, all glory, and all beauty. Truly, you are all these things. Amen. Let's stand as we worship today.
those that need a touch from God. We have a prayer bulletin. In our bulletin, there's a list of prayer needs. And we're going to just take 2 or 3 minutes and lift up our needs, lift our requests to God. Last week I explained that the word supplication means that we ask God, we beg God, we ask Him to meet these needs, to touch people in our lives. There are certain people that need a mighty and powerful touch physically, emotionally, relationally in their lives. And we want God, we want to lift those names and those people up to God. Let's just take it this morning again. If you would like to be anointed, you're more than welcome to come and sit on the front pew or kneel at the altar. One of our staff will come around you and anoint you. Let's close our eyes, bow our heads in an act of reverence to God, and allow God to hear you. Speak to Him. Talk from the heart. Thank you, God. Be in this service. Move in a mighty, powerful way. In your name, amen.
John chapter 19, verses 16 through 27. I'll give you guys a moment to find that. It'll also be up on our wonderful board there, which is always nice. So the soldiers took charge of Jesus, carrying his own cross. He went out to the place of the skull, which is Aramaic is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read the sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city. The sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests of the Jews protested to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews." But this man claimed to be the King of the Jews. Pilate answered, "What I have written, I took his clothes, dividing them into 4 shares, one for each of them, with the garment remaining. This garment was seamless, woven in one piece, top from bottom. Let's not tear it," they said to one another. "Let's decide by lot who will get it." This happened that the scripture might be fulfilled that said, "They divided my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment." So this is what the soldiers did. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son," and to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, this disciple took her into his home.
Okay. So what do we have left in miscellaneous envelope?
Nothing.
Nothing. Where did it all go?
Diapers.
Diaper. Since when does diaper money come
Listen
out?
up, you two. We need to talk about Easter.
Honey, we would love to talk with you about Easter, but Mommy and
I'm
Daddy
sick
are
of
kind of
waiting
busy.
on you guys.
Lucy. Hi. Look, we know how important it is for you to invite our family and friends to Easter services. We've just been really busy lately.
Okay, that's enough, big guy.
Excuse you?
Who are you inviting to Easter service? I need names, people.
Okay. Have you been letting her listen to sermons in the minivan again?
Sweetie, can you please just get off the coffee table?
Look, full transparency, Mom and Dad don't really know how our friends would react if we asked them to go to church with us.
People need the Lord.
Really need a noon halftime playlist.
Jesus is going to be real sad.
You're right. People really do need Jesus. Clearly now more than ever. We'll come up with a list of names, okay?
Daddy, please try to keep up.
Well,
No, not Chris from work.
yeah. Chris from work.
Oh.
Okay, about a month ago, we started this building program here, moving forward to build on faith, and we set a goal of $36,000. And if you look in your bulletin, you'll sort of see where we are at that goal. And the bulletin will show you where we're at the goal. If you haven't looked at it, we're very, very close to meeting this goal. I mean, we are under $6,000 close to meeting this goal. We are actually. Get this, you'll love this. We are 5.5 people away. I don't know where we're going to get to half a person, but 5.5 pledges away from this goal that we have put together. It's pretty amazing. I am pumped over this because we're not a big church, and it's not like we have money coming out of our ears and everything, but this 3-year plan to bring this church, to bring God's building up to a more aesthetic, pleasing, safer environment is pretty exciting, and we're almost there, and the fundraising is going great, and we've already contracted with a roofing company, and we've gotten a new color for our roof, and it's going to be amazing. But what happens if I gave you guys the goal that on Easter Sunday morning we have 100 people here? Could we do it? Okay, how about 75? Maybe 50 people on Sunday morning. Maybe we just start making worship and Christian education a priority in our life. Okay, maybe you show up once more. Maybe instead of being online, we start showing up to church. Maybe come to church more than once a month. See, the whole thing here is that we have a beautiful building. I love the stained glass. I love this building. This is our building. We're trying to change our building, but this building is worthless if we, hang on. Hang on there, buddy. You got to listen to me, all right? Got to hear me out. This building is worthless if nobody is here attending in it. We have to have people in our building, people hearing the message of God's power here to make this building important. And if we're not hearing, and the people in our family is not hearing the powerful message of the cross, then we can build this building as big as we want it, and nothing happens in it. Because the people is the church, and the building has to go together. We just don't preach to walls, because I tried that during the week, and I have not yet saved one of these pews. Just putting that out there, okay? I have preached to quite a few of these walls and pews during the weeks and periodically and whatever, and not one pew gave their life over to Jesus. Because my sermons are meant not for empty pews, but for people to hear. And if we do not share the powerful message of the cross to people, then we cannot show people if we're not sharing that and they're not coming here and hearing that message, then how do we expect our church to grow? How do we expect more people to hear that message? The thing is that there are people suffering in this world who need the power of the cross in their lives. But we need to live as though the power of the cross lives in our lives. You see, buildings, ministries, all these events are okay. But we need the power of Jesus' cross in our lives so that the people who are suffering in this world can experience the power of the cross. The one thing about the Passion story that we should remember is that God has called his followers to a life of suffering. And now this is kind of a tough thing to say. This is kind of a tough thing to understand. But we have to understand that we were not called to have these happy, wonderful, peaceful lives, but we were called to be a suffering people. Look at Philippians 3:10. It says, I want to know Christ. Yes, to know the power of his resurrection and participation in his suffering. I want to know the power of his resurrection. And I want to know we don't get up in the morning every morning, right, and say, I'm going to pray this song. I'm going to pray this verse, okay? I want to know the power of his resurrection, period. But it says, and participation in his suffering. We are called to suffer. We are called to feel pain. Because in the middle of that suffering is where we can then boast about the power of the cross in our lives. Following Jesus means that we thrive on what we need and everything else is extra. Jesus does not cause our suffering. He gives each of us the responsibility of suffering. That's very key. That's very key in our lives. That we are called to suffer. God does not cause the suffering, the ill will in our life, the bad things to happen. But he gives us the responsibility of that suffering. We fall short in these responsibilities when we allow spiritual blindness to get in the way. When we allow the things of this world to get in the way of the power of the cross. Again, I want to be very clear. This building is only meaningful when people are here on Sunday morning or it's being used by people throughout the week. There is nothing more important than people. Not this building is not number one. But the power of the cross in people's lives is number one. And what I am saying this morning is we have done a great job in building this church up and rejuvenating this church. But we can't lose sight of the power of the cross in people's lives while we do it. So that's why on Easter Sunday morning, I can't invite 100 people because everybody says that they're going to, everybody that I talk to throughout the week, when I say, "You going to be in church on Sunday?" They always say, yes. And they never come. So you know why I quit tasking people and saying, "Are you going to be in church on Sunday morning?" Is because don't want them to lie to me and go to hell. On Sunday morning, on Easter Sunday morning, you're not going to, if you bring a friend to church, you're not going to hear that brimfire and that fire, brimstone, whatever it's called, that judgmental, hey, if you don't accept Jesus, you might want to start carrying around an air conditioner because you're going to end up someplace that's really hot kind of sermon. What you're going to get is the power of the cross and how that changes our lives today, here and now. You see, the Passion story represents, this Passion part of the story, this part of this Passion story represents three different groups that people tend to fall into. The first group of people is called the arrogant people. These are the people who stand face to face with Jesus and cannot recognize him as the Messiah. He could not change their life. No matter what they did, they were so stuck in the ways and the things that they were concerned about in this world that they had no idea that Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God, was speaking to them. They couldn't understand that Jesus was the Son of God. We see the chief priests and Pilate having a debate. The chief priests were the religious leaders of the Jews, and Pilate was the governor of Judea. And Pilate and the chief priests had this adversarial relationship. And Pilate decided that he had enough of them, so he hangs a sign above Jesus' head. And as the people went by about their day, they saw this sign and became angry. And they go to the chief priests and they begin to chew in his ear about this sign above Jesus during this crucifixion. And the chief priests are like, "Oh my goodness, the people are really murmuring now. We need to go to Pilate." So they go to Pilate and they start saying to Pilate, "Hey, Pilate, I suggest strongly you remove that sign." Pilate says, "No, I'm not going to do it. I draw the line here." Pilate was making a point. He was arrogant. He didn't see what was happening. He didn't see what he was a part of. All he saw was that his political life was going to be destroyed. And so he decided he was going to make a point. He puts the sign up, "King of the Jews," and he's saying to the chief priests that Jesus was innocent. He's saying to the people who are complaining to the chief priests, "Don't do it, riot, or it's going to be you on that cross." And then he is saying to the followers of Jesus, "It wasn't me. I didn't do this. It was somebody else." And so in this mocking of Jesus, as he hung on the cross to die, they were too arrogant to see what was happening. Instead, they argued over a sign that was placed above his head. The second group of people are the uninformed. These are the soldiers who are at the foot of the cross. They're doing their duty. They're doing the things. And the thing that strikes me about the crucifixion is the cold, callous way the soldiers go about doing life. Remember, when we don't feel, we're not in tune with God. God allows certain feelings to stir up in us. When we hear the name of God, something should happen. And there is God's Son on the cross, God's Son hanging on his cross, and they go about their job, their daily, very cold, very callous. I'm not sure what psychological harm was done to the people the people that participate in actively putting people to death, but I do know that the torturous methods were just extreme. And these men had to learn to become cold-hearted to humanity. And we see the soldiers around the cross looking at the belongings of the criminals. And that's something that they did. The belongings of the criminals would be put at the feet of Jesus, or at the foot of the cross, and the soldiers then took rewards from whatever was laid there. And as they're divvying up all their stuff, they find the garment of Jesus. And they're like, whoa, hang on. This thing doesn't have a beginning or an end. It was one piece. And in order to do that, a very expensive process had to be done to create this one piece of garment. Some people think that Jesus didn't have a little bit of wealth. Not too many people had this garment that Jesus wore of one piece. They said, let's not cut this up. Let's gamble for it. Let's cast lots. Let's roll the dice. And they played a game with Jesus' garment while he hung on the cross, suffering for us, and he played these games of life at his feet for a piece of clothing. These are the uninformed people. And they and the soldiers were more concerned about the things of this world than they were about God's Son being crucified. Then we have the third group. The third group is the overwhelmed. And the third group consisted of 5 different people. Mary, the wife of Clopas, she's the sister-in-law of Mary. We know very little about her, but we know that her nephew is the one that's hanging on the cross. So we just don't have a couple of people, and we have strangers at the foot of the cross. We have an aunt. Mary, the wife of Clopas, is where they think that Clopas and Joseph were brothers. So her nephew is hanging on the cross. We have Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene is not a prostitute. She was a businesswoman. She was a businesswoman that had great admiration for Jesus. She did not have romantic interests in Jesus. It was a relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene that was a business friendship out of respect. There was no romantic thing between the two of them. She was at the cross because she cared for a close friend who was dying. Then you have Mary's sister. Many believe that this is Salome, who is James and John's wife, mother. Salome is James and John's mother. And this is Mary's sister who was following Jesus. After I read some of this history and stuff, it made perfect sense as to why Jesus went to certain people and called certain people. So that makes James and John his cousins. So then you have John's disciple, John. And John is not only one of his cousins, but it now makes sense to me that they grew up together and they were best friends. This is Jesus' best friend, John the disciple. The 5th person is Mary, the mother of Jesus. The thing about all 5 of these is that they were hurting. They were all hurting because of the execution of Jesus. They were facing an unfair situation, a situation a situation that was forced upon them, a situation that they did not want. They were agonizing over the execution of somebody they loved dearly. They were tired, angry, frustrated, and hurting. They were overwhelmed with life. And one cannot go through the experience that they did without being overwhelmed. They were at the foot of the cross of Jesus, and they were at the end. They were drawn to the foot of the cross because of their love for Jesus. And these 5 were overwhelmed by pain, grief, and sadness. And something very interesting happens at this point. Jesus, throughout the execution, says 7 phrases or 7 words from the cross. And this moment, with these 4 ladies and John around the cross, the chief priests are so arrogant that they're arguing over a sign. The soldiers are uninformed about what's going on, and they're gambling for a piece of garment. And then you have these 5 people around the cross, and this is the only time of the 7 words, 7 phrases of Jesus from the cross that he directly talks to someone. He talks to his mother. He talks to John, but he talks to his mother. Jesus understands the importance of his mother and is not going to give her what she wants. Mary. Mary gets a lot of credit for bringing Jesus into this world, and she should. She gets a lot of press, per se, because of the birth of Jesus. But we don't look at Mary and the significance that Mary had in Jesus' life. Mary was a young woman, okay? And in the Bible, we think that we don't know who Mary's parents were at all. Even in the genealogies, they're not really completely sure who Mary's parents are. There are 2 genealogies as to the bloodline of Jesus, and they both flow back to Joseph. And they both end at Joseph. Luke has one, and Matthew has one. And when you look at these 2 genealogies, Joseph is in the end. They are very different, but one thing that the reason, hang on just for a second here. We think that Matthew's genealogy line is through Joseph, okay? We know that for sure. Luke's, they think, is through Mary. And the reason why it ends with Joseph is that there is a male-dominant society, and the custom is to follow the line through the father, never the mother. And so as they're going down through Mary, they get to Mary's father, per se, and then they say, okay, that has to be Joseph, and attach Joseph's name to it. It's possible that happened. I do believe that Matthew follows Joseph's line, and Luke follows Mary's line, that both paths lead to David, which is very significant in the Bible. Also, if you've ever heard that Mary was 12 years old and Joseph was in his 30s, late 30s, no. That is very, very wrong. I get, as in my old age, I get a little forceful about what I believe, but in my understanding, Mary was not 12 years old and Joseph was not in his 30s. Mary was probably closer to the age of 16, maybe 17, maybe 18. Understand, we have 18-year-olds become adults. At the age of 16 is when you became married. It's when your life began, because life was a lot shorter back then. It's not like today where you have 16, 17, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds living, 27-year-olds living in your house still, okay? Back then, you were 16, 17 years old. You had to go off and make something of yourself in the world. So Mary was about 16 or 17, and Joseph was not that much older, maybe a year or 2. We know that Mary had to be that young because of the word for virgin. Not only does it not mean to be with somebody, it also means young woman. Not young child, okay, not child, but young woman. So she was a young woman, and at 16 years of age is when you became a woman or a man. So these are two young adults of their time who are, this does not tell us our 16-year-olds that we can go out and have children yet. You get married, just like this Bible all says. Want to make sure we point that out. Okay, so they get married, and Mary is betrothed to Joseph. And I like this whole betrothal thing, okay? Because betrothal is not being married, but it's not being engaged either. Okay? It's more than being engaged, but it's less than being married. It's almost married, but not really married. It is a binding agreement between two families, but the ceremony hasn't taken place, basically. And it's so binding in the betrothal, okay, and this is why Joseph was thinking about giving a letter of divorce. It is so binding that if you walk away from that relationship, it is as if you're divorcing the person. But we're not married yet. Correct. It keeps a person, what this betrothal does is because the families give gifts, endowments to the couple. They give gifts to the couple and everything. That's all prearranged before the wedding. And what it does, it keeps the man, from backing out at the last minute. It keeps him from leaving his bride or leaving the woman at the altar type deal. Because they still had to have the celebration. Okay, celebration was very important. The marriage ceremony had to happen, but they were more than married. They were not quite married, but they were more than engaged. So they had this, but we don't do that anymore. We just pay for expensive weddings when your two children decide to have it all in 1 year, and then you're like, okay. Anyways, was I saying something? I think, did that come out of, I was thinking all that stuff. Did that come out of my, okay. Mary is the most notable for bringing up Jesus in this world. We all know Mary. We all know Mary's story and the birth of Jesus, okay? Angel Gabriel brought a message to Mary that she would give birth to God's Son, the Messiah, and he calls Mary highly favored. And Mary should be highly favored. Mary did bring in the Son of God. As much as I love my son, he is not the Son of God. Okay? As much as you may love your son and you think that he is the Son of God, he is not. There was only one Son of God and one person, and that was Mary, and she was chosen by God at the right time to bring the Son of God, the Messiah, into this world. And that should be important. And Mary should be honored for that and respected for that. Mary and Joseph travel to Bethlehem, where they bring their child into this world in a stable. Luke tells us that Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The word ponder means she thought about them. She dwelled on the events that she saw in front of her. Mary knew that her child was exceptional. She knew that there was something different about him, that there was something that's going to be radical, that he was going to do something radical in this world. She knew that she held God's Son. And in Mark chapter 6, verse 3, we see that Mary and Joseph did have 6 other children. Jesus was the first of 7 children of Mary and Joseph. That's where, I'm not going to go there. Too long to explain. If you want to know why Joseph is not in his 30s and all that, I'll explain that all to you privately, or maybe we can talk about it in Christian education. Somebody brings that question up sometime, but that's for another day. We find out then, 12 years later, that Joseph and Mary are going off to celebrate the Passover in Jerusalem. They go to Jerusalem, celebrate the Passover, and we know that Joseph was a religious man and taught Jesus to grow and respect God and people. And he taught Jesus all the ways of God, because Joseph led his family to Jerusalem for the Passover. And on their way back, Jesus is no longer there. And it took 4 days into the journey, and they find out that Jesus isn't around. Basically what happens is you just kind of travel in a big group because it was safer back then, and because during the night, if you were by yourself, you could get robbed, murdered, or whatever. And so there's this whole group, and you just took care of everybody else's kid. They would run around, and so basically Mary and Joseph were saying one day, the kids are running around, and they said, have you seen Jesus? No. So they scurry back to Jerusalem, and they find Jesus in the temple. And Jesus basically says, why are you worrying, mother? You know where I should have been. So Mary is a mother who is worried, who is concerned about her son. Joseph, at the age of 12 of Jesus, becomes a mystery to us. We don't know what happened to Joseph. We don't know where he was. We do know that Joseph taught Jesus to love God, and he also taught Jesus how to be a carpenter. But we do not hear anything after this trip to Jerusalem about Joseph. So between the age of 12 and 18, Joseph is no longer in Jesus' life. Sometime between that age period, which means, which we do not talk about, that Mary was a single mother. And she raised her kids herself. She did not have the help of a husband. And this may account for why Jesus didn't enter the ministry until the age of 30 instead of in his 20s, is because Jesus stayed at home to care for the family and be the breadwinner for Mary while they raised the other 6 kids. So we see the single mom, Mary. We see Jesus, who's at the age of 30. And they're at this wedding feast in Canaan. And all of a sudden, the wine runs out. The drinks run out. Yes, it is. It's as whiny as wine is today. Yes, I know. It is pure wine because they didn't have Welch's grape juice back then. Anyways, the wine ran out, the drink ran out. And Mary looks to Jesus, and she's being mom. Now, after reading and understanding all this stuff about Mary, I realized that Mary and Jesus have been having this discussion about, it's time, Jesus, you need to go. No, Mom, I have responsibilities here at home. No, Jesus, you need to go. No, Mom, I have responsibilities here at home. And I'm pretty sure that Mary and Jesus have had this discussion many, many days, and the older he got, the more Mary was demanding, Jesus, you need to go. So there's this big wedding feast. The groom's family is going to be embarrassed because the wine ran out, and Mary goes to Jesus and says, it is time. She's being mom. Jesus, realizing that it was time, looks at his mother and says, that's the last time you do that to me. But he knew his mother was right. She says, listen to what he has to say. And that's the last time Mary gets involved in Jesus' ministry. They don't call each, hey, Mom, I'm going to Jerusalem this week. Jesus, I don't think you should go to Jerusalem. They might crucify you. Yeah, isn't that great, Mom? No, Jesus, I think that's a bad decision. Look, when Jesus went to Jerusalem, he did not call up his mother. I know, but his... Yeah, it's okay. Yes, that is true. But Mary was following Jesus at that time. It was with Jesus at that time. And so, Jesus does not call his mother to make the decisions anymore. He makes the decisions from then on, all on his own. He goes back to his mother's house periodically to make sure everything is okay. But Jesus is now Jesus, the Son of God, the Messiah. And the last time we see Mary, she's watching from below the foot of the cross. I can't nor want to know what she was feeling. Her own flesh and blood was hanging on the cross. The little boy she brought into the world was deemed a criminal, and there was nothing she could do about it. And within hours, Jesus was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. There would be no justice, no legion of angels. Mary is caught up in a political game that costs her son his life. And there are times when Jesus' response from the cross to Mary this is a time when Jesus' response to Mary from the cross, knowing her whole life, being a single mother, knowing that he made the decisions, knowing everything, his response to her is to ignore her request. To see past what John was teaching, we need to understand some things. Mary is the only person that Jesus speaks to directly. He talks to John, but only because he wants him to do something. And Jesus' response to Mary is, "Woman, here is your son," and to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that time on, the disciple took her into his home. Out of all the things that Mary was going to want at that time, he did not honor Mary's requests. You see, this was Jesus' response from the cross. And this is Jesus' response from us. Jesus, racked with pain, looks at his mother and understands what she needs. You see, Jesus does not give us what we want. He gives us what we need. Jesus is going to offer to Mary a lifetime of care. John would become her elder son, and he would take care of her for the rest of his life. Mary needed a retirement plan, and Jesus provided one for her. Jesus did not take her agony away. He offered what she needed. See, Jesus doesn't take our pain away from our life. He offers to us what we need, not what we want. There's a lot of things I want in my life, but I always find out that he offers to me what I need at that time. Jesus says we have been called by God, we have been called by Jesus to participate in his suffering, and he will give us what we need, not what we want. We are so focused on the suffering of life that we don't see God offering us these needs and how to take care of these. Jesus offers us what we need, not what we want. Jesus never responds to our wants, but offers us what we need. Jesus turns to John and asks him to take care of his mother. John was more than willing, and Jesus provides a path through the pain of life by offering us people who will love us. That is why it is so important that the world hears about the hope of the cross, because they need love. They don't need new cars or new clothes, just like us. They need the love of the cross of Jesus. This building isn't going to offer that love. Buildings do not love. We may love our homes, and I know many of us love our homes, okay, or our cars, okay. Some of us have named their cars, okay. I love my baseball card collection, all right. We love different things. I even love my little puppy dog, but I understand this. The hope of Jesus is only going to be to people because those things do not love. My baseball card has not woken up this morning yet and told me, I love you. I have told it, and even Snoopy, as much as Snoopy just like all over us and just loves us, and we think that Snoopy just loves us twice a day. When we wake up in the morning, food. And about 6 o'clock at night, she starts at 4 sometimes and begs for food for 2 hours. And then she has nothing to say. Well, I'm happy as long as I get my food. Just understand that. Your pet loves you because you feed them. He is providing John so that John could care for her and love her. Jesus is offering his deep love for her, her needs. I love you, Mother. Here is what you need. John, you're her child. Take care of her. God offers people in this world. And that's why we come together on Sunday mornings in this building, is to get the care, not only from the words of that word that God is giving us, but from the care and love of people. I'm sorry, Paula, I'm going to use you as an example this morning. Okay? We were in Christian education. She broke my heart. Not she didn't break it. She just made me feel so blessed this morning. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said break my heart. She made me feel so blessed this morning. I mean, blessed beyond your imagination. She doesn't even know how much she blessed me. She said that after her mother died, she wanted to know about her mother's God and Christianity and where her mother went to church and what she did. And she said, I started attending here. And she said, the people of this church accepted her and loved her. And that's why she continues to come. God offers people his love through people. He offered John. And sometimes what are we like? No, it's okay. I don't need people. Yes, well, all right, that's fine. In the darkest moments of life, that is where we can experience God's love. It is these times when the things of this world are powerless. And it's in the darkness of life where we have to turn away from the things of this world and enter into God's love. And there are people in this church that want to experience that love and walk through that darkness with you. And as Jesus hung on the cross, he looked down at the pain of his mother, and with the right words, Jesus could have taken away all of her pain. Just poof, it's completely gone. And when I read about the crucifixion and understand the power that Jesus possessed, I am often wonder why he let his followers go through what they did, especially his mother. He could have stopped everything. He could have stopped the suffering of his mother. Jesus understood that the words were not going to fix the sinful state of his creation. Jesus was on the cross to cure us from the disease of sin. He had to allow his mother to experience the pain of losing him so that he could cure her of a bigger problem. Jesus was offering healing for his mother from the cross. Jesus was offering healing to his followers from the cross. In the depth of his pain and suffering, Jesus offers a way we can have healing from the sin of this world. Jesus sees our suffering, and he offers each of us the healing power of the cross. And it is through the pain that we will experience the healing that Christ's death brought to this world. And we have to understand that, yes, we are called to suffer, and in our sufferings, we can find the true love of God. We can find the people who truly love us. And in our sufferings, we can experience something so powerful and amazing, and that is God's deep, compassionate love. When we are overwhelmed with life, we want Jesus. We want Jesus not. When we are overwhelmed with life, we want Jesus to respond to us, but he will offer us what we need. He will offer us his love, and he will offer us his healing. And it's then and only then that this world begins to make sense. Jesus did not come into this world to respond to our pain, but to offer us the healing power of the cross. We are called to suffering, and it is through our suffering that we experience the deep love of God and the healing power of the cross. This song, How Deep His Father's Love for Us. And I just don't want you to sing it like, oh, good, we got about 5 minutes left. I get to go home, and I got all sorts of stuff to do. That's not the point. The point is to listen to this world. I want you to put away for a while all the junk that you're thinking about, everything in this world, the concerns you have, the anger you have. Let it go and allow the deep, powerful love of God to come into your life. And this is what I have learned. I learned this big time yesterday. If you were in some Christian education class, you didn't know why I learned this yesterday, okay? That the things of this world are meaningless when you are in the presence of God and you are living each moment of your life in the powerful love that the cross gave to us. The sacrifice that God made on the cross broke that barrier, and God's love flooded into this world, and we can live within that love. It's not something we tap into. It's not something we buy. It's not something we go to. It's something we experience each day. And each day I want to experience God's love. In the darkest moments, I want to experience God's love. And this morning, if you are going through a dark time, if you are going through a time of suffering, you can allow the love of God to flow through you and in you. Look, I have talked about God offering from the cross. Jesus is offering this because until we take hold of it and put away all of our junk and just let God speak, then we become and understand what is important. Allow God to move so you can understand the powerful love of the cross. And during this time, where are you at? Is your brain, is your mind on the things of this world? Or have you been able to connect into that powerful, allowing that powerful love to just flow through you? This is a time between God and us. Put away the things and just let God's powerful love to move.
Break the veil of sin.
God, allow your mighty and powerful love to just move in our lives. We want so much to experience that powerful love, to be in that love, to allow that love to flow through us. Lord, if there is something in our life that is keeping that love from coming into our lives, from flowing through us, show us. If we are suffering this morning, Lord, open your heart and allow the love of God to just move. We thank you, God. You are amazing. You are wonderful.
Behold the man upon a cross, my sin upon his shoulders ashamed. I hear my mocking voice call out on the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. Give this day that God has created for you.